Welcome back to my plan to save the world and the global economy as the Chaos Dwarfs. I'm powering through these as quickly as possible because I'm enjoying it and because I have an opportunity and I'm not sure when I will again. Now, for this episode, a couple of things are going to be changing just to make it a more entertaining and viewable experience. One thing I'm going to be doing is I'm not going to be showing battles live. That's I think inferior as a viewing experience to me just playing the battles through manually, saving the replays, and then showing in cinematic terms the battle if it happens to be interesting, because we can focus on what happened rather than me trying to micro the battle as I talk. So that's one change. The other thing we're going to be doing is a little bit of a strategic decision has been made for us. The orcs of Grimgor's Ardboys, who are shaping up to be, them and Archaon are probably going to be two of our big opponents, and all the major Chaos Lords who are doing really well up north. Like, Chaos is doing really well this run so far. Grimgor is strength rank 2 on the map, so Grimgor's doing well, and he hates our absolute guts. Geez, I wonder why. So, Grimgor is coming into the Darklands and is about to take this settlement here, the Gates of Zharr, which means we, of course, are going to jump in and take it first, and then try and sweep south and consolidate the Tower of Gorgoth as well, because it's got a really good, unique building that I would like to get, which generates 300 income and 400 raw materials for 250 workload. That is phenomenal, so I would very much like to get that under control. The economy as a whole is starting to rev up a little bit more. I'm going to be able to sell off some guns, I think, for more labor to keep scaling the raw material economy, because the idea here is to get this left to right flow happening. You use gold to create raw material infrastructure, you use raw material infrastructure to create weapons, but the raw materials are also the driver of all your centralized tower infrastructure, and you can convert it into more gun production. You can also convert it into money production, a whole bunch, research speed, a whole bunch of other stuff by enabling these towers. So I'm going to push this number north of 2,000 is my goal. Just keep the rebar flowing in order to allow constant construction, and make do insofar as possible with, instead of like piling up unit capacity on good units or anything like that, I want to get the economy right first. If I can keep fighting with these two relatively cheap armies, this is a less than 3,000 gold army, because it's built around hobgoblins that are just stacking so many buffs that they're actually, I think these gold chevron hobgoblin cutthroats, like, they're in the same vague league as the Chaos Dwarfs. They have considerably less armor and worse shields, but they have more melee attack, the same amount of weapon strength. They've got a little bit less, like, they're not horrid. They're considerably faster. They're immune to psychology. They have 10% physical resist, 25% missile resist. They do additional 30% weapon damage as long as they're above half health, which takes their weapon strength from 53 well above the Chaos Dwarf Warriors. Like, we're stacking a lot of buffs here to make the cheap work for us. The other thing we're going to do in terms of a strategic sense is I'm actually going to I'm going to take the 15 relations penalty, which hurts with Vlad, because Vlad is getting pretty close to liking us, but Vlad's, you know, probably not a long-term ally, but also Vlad will like us beating up on the tree people. So what we're going to do is, instead of taking the long way around, which will take a while, we're going to trespass through Vlad's territory and try and take Eschen, Waldenhof, Essen, Mordenheim, Nagenhof, build out a sort of stronghold by destroying the angry Drycha tree people who are killing all the humans, and in so doing, hopefully, win over Kislev, because Kislev are fighting Drycha as well, so they will like us more if we take them out. So that's the plan. I'm going to march Astragoth through Von Karstein lands to Eschen now. I'm getting more items from my trade caravans, and I'll get the next one set up. We'll dive into the Darklands with everyone's favourite, Frasguz, who I should have renamed, but, you know, here we are. We won't call the servants of the Conclave in. That should be an easy, decisive victory. Haha, the orcs even reinforce us. I love it. So we lose 9, we take 6 labor, it's not much. We'll make this an outpost. we'll make the Tower of Gorgoth, accept labour there, repair this. We'll make the Tower of Gorgoth a tower, and Demon's Stump, we'll see. It might be a factory, it might be an outpost. Ideally, I want as many outposts as possible, as is efficient, that I can keep up with in terms of influx of labour. Really, like the mining industry in so many places, the key gateway here is infrastructure, so the gold that we have available to us, and qualified labour. So our recruiting campaigns need to really continue apace. We need to be bringing in new workers from everywhere. So I'm hoping that Astragoth can advertise the potential of mining sector employment in the Dawi Zharr Empire to the people of, to the various wild animals, tree spirits, and humans under Drycha's occupation. So we'll see. Also, I want to do this just for the laughs. Bretonia has taken Grugzint, so this is an opportunity for us to start being... Oh, and Koronkar has been taken by Nagaraith. Fantastic. So we, instead of trading to like... Oh, and we can't trade to Fort Trakova. I thought for a moment we could send weapons to Kislev. So I can send a whole bunch of weapons to Bretonia, who doesn't use any weapon more complicated than a trebuchet. Let's just send them a bunch of Chaos Dwarf weapons in exchange for a bunch of peasants, presumably, labour recruits for our mines. So I could take the gold, but 1,000 labour is a good deal, and it'll only take 7 turns to get there. We could also trade gold for... you could always trade gold for labour, which is usually a direct profit from what I'm seeing so far. We can upgrade the Cinnabar mine, that'll be more money. Money is important right now. I'll go through, optimise my labour, and then cycle the turn. Now, with Vlad pushed back, they have nonetheless decided, it looks like, to bring in a fresh army and attack Astragoth. So, actually, let's give Astragoth even more leadership. Why not? Oh wait, no, he can only carry that banner. Let's give him the gleaming banner, and let's give Gordas the +7, because Lord knows he needs it. So what are we even fighting? Cave bats, treekin, bears, wolves, spiders. So what we're learning here is that aggressive trees are a real opponent of industrialization. Saruman had it right. The ants were in the way. We need resources to generate economic growth, and these trees just have the wrong idea. So we're going to have to fight them off. Luckily, one thing we do have is so much fire damage, like a ridiculous amount of fire damage, and most of our opponents are made of wood. So yeah, we should be in a good place there. We can hopefully assault the main force before the reinforcements arrive. They're 2 minutes away. Not that our army is particularly fast by any stretch of the imagination. But anyway, I'll play this out, and we'll cut to a replay if it's interesting. Alright, so here we are looking at the battle that we faced against Drycha's main armies. This was 3 armies coming together. Really only 1 was full, but there are reinforcing units. Drycha coming in with a whole bunch of more tank and gank, and a small force with some archers and whatnot. But what you're looking at here is a combination of super high mobility, some DPS, some really, really challenging single entities. So things like Coadil, which is a monster, a ancient tree man hero who is armored, extremely damaging, 559 weapon strength, 82 melee attack. So I adopt an incredibly advanced tactical stratagem, a time-honored Total War tradition called the Corner Camp, where I hid in the corner of the map and dared them to come at me. They don't want to do that, so what I do is I send out Astragoth on his little mech suit to go and poke the bear, so to speak, and draw the bears into our clutches. Now, the advantage of this is I am able to kite... I know it's only 2 units out of an army, like this might be 5% of their total force, but it's still 5% that I'm about to pinch off for free. What will happen is the bears will get within close range, the archers will do their job, and really what I'm relying on here is a front line. I've got my front line of cutthroats, and then behind them I've got units that are going to steady the line. So the bull centaurs and the heroes are going to have to jump in to make sure that the hobgoblins don't get overrun. Behind it, we've got all the archers. We have our airborne monster to tie up their airborne units, but a lot of the damage is going to be done by these Chaos Dwarf blunderbusses and by Astragoth's magic. In particular, the blunderbusses, those shotguns, are probably the only thing we have that provides any real answer to the really scary single entity stuff. So to things like Coadil and the Ancient Tree Man, blunderbusses are going to be really our only answer. So we reset our formation for Wave 2, which is all of the flying stuff, so Great Hawks, Cave Bats, and what we're going to do here is we're going to use the Great Taurus to attack airborne units that we don't want getting behind our lines, and the key throughout this battle is just going to be keep the shotguns firing. So the blunderbusses should be engaging here, a bit of a duck hunt, all the appropriate permits have been secured, this is a completely legitimate and legal shoot. I believe Great Hawks are clearly not an endangered species, so we take out most of the flyers, but as you can see, I'm also deploying magic for the first time to try and clear these Dryads, because the Dryads do a lot of the DPS. The Dryads and the Beasties are a lot of the DPS, whereas things like the Treekin, they're really, really tanky, but they don't account for much of Drycha's damage. You can also see here that tactic of, again, pushing the heroes forward or using things like the Bull Centaurs to steady up the Hobgoblins that by this point are already getting pretty beat up. The main engagement starts with some pretty brutal enemy magic, so we get a Pendulum coming through causing a reasonable amount of damage. We get a Melkoth's Miasma destroying some of the Chaos Dwarf warriors that we have anchoring what I thought was the safest part of the line, the extreme left. And some pretty haggard looking units holding the centre and the right, but here they come. This is their primary force coming in. I do identify the Feral Manticore as something I want to kill first. And there goes a Pit of Shades. So as you can see, some pretty Drycha's got some really good shadow magic, and they use all of it. So at this point, this is like the point of maximum pressure. Everything just crumples into my lines. A Hobgoblin unit gets basically annihilated. I have to throw the Bull Centaurs in order to compensate. The blunderbusses get hit by Melkoth's Miasma, but fortunately, even though it takes a whole bunch of health off them, it doesn't kill many individual models, which means they can keep firing. And the first thing they're going to engage is this Feral Manticore. Now, we'll keep half an eye on it. I'm doing things like bringing the heroes over to steady points of the line that I think are really vulnerable. The AI is hitting these blunderbusses, but I think in a moment they should get their guns pointed around, and we'll engage our first large enemy monster with them. Meanwhile, the spiders are doing what they do. Feral Manticore comes over and engages Astragoth. And we also see these very high DPS Deepwood Scouts start to reveal themselves, which is, at this point, I feel like things are not going superb, but I also knew this was going to happen. Like, they were going to throw themselves face first into the formation, and what mattered now was taking out the right priority targets before the front line completely disappeared, using people like Astragoth, and you see, send in Vor does as well, but he does get somewhat smacked, and making good use of magic. Although in that case, with those tanky targets, not particularly useful. What you do see is the blunderbusses starting to engage the Hero Tree Man, the most dangerous single model in the enemy army at this point. They do get hit again, but I imbue them with some flame damage to really turbocharge the damage, and as you can see, that's a 50% hero, it's a 40% hero. View it from their perspective. Just putting those flaming projectiles in. Monster that, if not for the blunderbusses, could probably solo the entire melee line of our army, and there he goes. And this is when things started to shift. When I started to take down these large single entities, a lot of the DPS by this point is off the field. These Deepwood Scouts remain a problem, but I have a solution for those as well. Astragoth will tank while the big monsters die. And then I think around this point, somewhere near here, you start to see me solving the Deepwood Scouts problem. There we are. By dropping things like Astragoth's magic on them. Massive nuke. There's only 400 hit points between that 41, so a few arrows, as you can see, they immediately shatter. Another case of Flaming Sword of Ruin. And the cellar is also going to be gunned down by shotguns, archers, etc. Primarily the shotguns. And at this point, the battle was pretty much done. Drycha was in the dirt, I believe, which means their morale was in the toilet. The big single entities were being felled, brought down. There you go. Our Bull Centaur just parading over the fallen tree. Me making sure they don't get to run away. There we are. And battle done. A victory for the noble tactic known as corner camping. Alright, so I'm definitely playing that replay, so we're cutting back in. Desperate corner camp defense, and even though it shows the blunderbusses only doing 10 and 13 kills, that's because they were the ones scything down those really heavy targets. I somewhat underestimated how damaging the magic that was being thrown at me was going to be, but the army as a whole is very much intact, and we should get some pretty good loot out of it. Yeah, 3,000 gold. Do I want 168 labour or another 1,000 gold? I think in the circumstances I actually want that labour. I am quite short across the board from where I want to be, so let's just keep building up that labour stockpile. And we'll be able to take Eshin next. I don't want to trade with you, because you're against Cathay, and I would like to trade with Cathay. So there we are. Huge gold influx from beating up that army of trees. We could go chasing after the army, but I really don't think that's a good idea. Instead, what I'm going to have to do is very carefully assault Eshin to protect these units that are very heavily damaged. Astragoth, 300. This battle's going to have to handle carefully, but on the other hand, the garrison should be absolutely screwed after we fought them last turn. So as long as they lead with the right units, Bull Centaurs, Hobgoblins, we should be fine there. So I'll take Eshin in a moment. Down here, we should be in a position to move south towards the Tower of Gorgoth. Hopefully take that next turn, which would be nifty. This army will probably swing back and take the Gates of Zharr, which is fine. I really don't mind. And yeah, we should be in a good position. So Eshin is now in our hands, and critically that means we can get the unit reconstitution across the board. I've started building orchards here, which will let us start selling wine. We might have to spend the gold to upgrade this to level 2 to get a mine going as well. We'll start accepting new labour. But I don't expect this to be a particularly important province going forward. Gordas has leveled up again. So all of our Hobgoblins are in pretty good shape now. I could get him an extra 5% missile strength, but I'm not sure that's actually worth it. He himself could get Frenzy. But I wonder if instead it's time to start getting Gordas himself leveled up. He needs more melee defense in order to be actually able to duel enemy characters, because he's clearly configured to be able to do it. He's got a short-term melee attack plus 100% damage. He's got this short crooked dice buff, which is usually make me much more survivable for 90 seconds. And he's got They Need Stabbing, which nukes the enemy's defense and armor. So he's clearly designed to be able to duel opponents. He just doesn't have the melee defense or HP in order to do it. So with 12 more melee defense, 12 more melee attack, and eventually even more melee attack up here, another 12, and then Slippery to let him get out of trouble, he might become a really formidable duelist. But I thought it was worth him getting the ability to buff all those goblins up first. But there we are, we've thrown back the tree people from their first objective, got a whole bunch of money out of it, and next turn, after we've regened a little bit, we can sweep to Waldenhof, then Essen, and then either Mordheim or Nagenhof. Hopefully the Kislevites are noticing. Let's have a quick check-in with them. Yeah, they were negative 28. They're improving to 26, but we'll rack up the military actions, and then at the right time we'll send them like a 4,000 or 6,000 gold gift, and we might be able to get them to non-aggression. And once we got them to non-aggression trade, everything else will follow. So I'm feeling pretty good about that. Good guy, Chaos Dwarfs, saving the humans from the angry trees. Gotta love it. Tower of Gorgoth next in our sights. Alright, it doesn't feel good, but it has to be done. Otherwise, Grimgor's going to come through this area and tear it apart. Plus, our fellow Chaos Dwarfs haven't quite gotten with the program of saving the world. So, Frasgaz is going to have to take his army into the Tower of Gorgoth, clear this out. I'm going to have to do it by hand because the auto-resolve is saying I will lose a bunch of units. I should be able to handle this, though, with the power of magic, my bull centaurs. I'll just do a little bit of equipment shuffling. I've got the granite guard blunderbusses, and mostly I have a whole bunch of archers and the sneaky potential of a human being to exploit angles of advance. Not sure if I'll include the replay, depends if it's fun, but I'm going to jump in and do this now. Alright, there we go. Like I said, it was about exploiting magic primarily, with 626 kills on Frasgas. The heroes did their bit, including chopping down some of the opposing heroes. Blunderbusses did good work, and even though it doesn't look like the archers did anything, they did take a lot of HP off those opposing heroes. So, all in all, a relatively clean siege. We are absolutely going to occupy this as a tower when it gives us the option, and get it to level 3 as quickly as possible for that amazing, unique building. So 171 labour, we will occupy it as a level 2 tower. 476 labour in place means that we can get a mine up straight away, which is great, and we'll push this to a level 3 upgrade immediately to get ourselves access to that sweet, sweet, unique building. This is the... oh, this is a blunderbuss and infernal castellan recruitment building, so I could start recruiting infernal castellans if I wanted. They seem pretty cool. But this army is pretty good in terms of what it's got at the moment. I'm not sure. Maybe I'll recruit one just for fun. We can also recruit demon smith sorcerers. It looks like we can. Now these are backup mages. So in the future, what I might want to do is have an ordinary commander paired with a demon smith sorcerer. They cost 238 upkeep, which is not nothing. I generally only like having one mage per army, so Frasgas here is doing a perfectly fine job. He's about to get his arcane conduit, which is all he really needed to get to be a full-strength mage. Eventually he'll have a Bale Taurus, and at this point he can start getting his uniques, he can get his army line to upgrade those, he can finally get Route Puncher, and the Bull Center Tauruks are at 8 and 10, not bad. So Tower of Gorgoth secured. We might get, we might experiment by getting a, because I don't know what their skill trees look like. Maybe a Death or Hashut. Although we're getting great results with fire. I'll get Hashut. What's this? Plus 10% for units when fighting against the forces of order. Don't really want that. Controlling, plus 5 leadership. Compulsive. Labour gain, that's kind of cool, but that's metal. I'm not a huge fan of metal, although it can be good. Character experience, fanatical, we know that. Phlegmatic, plus 3. And that. Alright, leave it with me. What I hadn't noticed, and this is supremely bloody annoying, is that the Beastmen have caught me in Eshin, which prevents me from regenerating these units, which means I have to win this battle, which I will win. Like, I just have to carefully preserve my bloody Hobgoblin units. I have to win this battle for the right to replenish, which is really annoying because I would like to get on the way. And Vlad is marching north, which means if I don't get moving soon, Vlad's going to take more territory than I do, which I'm not keen on. So let's destroy these beastmen and then get back to it. Alright, again, Astragoth, the blunderbusses, and the bull centaurs with a little bit of a carry, but Gordars with the 2 hobgoblin summons and a whole bunch of archers. We managed to do it with 41 casualties, but I really hope that means that this time I get my bloody replenishment. I'd even be tempted to take 8% replenishment now if it wasn't a massive 653 labour on offer. Now, I could venture out and actually kill these guys. That might actually be a good idea to make sure they don't bloody come back. I do have full movement, so if I'm careful about it, I could knock out both these beast armies. I could also advance and try and take Voldenhof this turn. Pretty sure that would mean Korok would then come back and destroy this settlement though, because it's got a tiny garrison. But if I don't take Voldenhof now, I'm pretty sure Vlad will. This is what they call being in the horns of a bloody dilemma. Leave it with me. Alright, well, Imric, who I don't even border, has decided he's going to go well with me. I didn't even know I discovered Imric, but, okay, I doubt he's going to march through allied lands. It does mean that when I confederate the southern Chaos Dwarves, he might be a problem. I don't want to destroy Imric. I very much do not want to destroy Imric. I do want to destroy Helman Gorst. Because he's Helman Gorst. So, clearly the war in the south is going to continue. The war in the west against the trees is continuing. The war to consolidate the south is continuing. It's going to have to continue to be vampire swatting. And then I'm getting to the point where economically I can justify... Oh, it's a nice enchanted item. Weakness to fire damage, 60%. That could be good for nuking people with spells. Melee defense +5. We'll get ourselves a seat on the council. Conclave influence. There we are. It's a small increase, but it's an increase, and it gets us closer to unlocking that all-important +1 convoy. Uzkalak is complete. Fantastic. Now, this takes 11 turns. So that's my #1 priority. That takes 8 turns to upgrade. And we've only unlocked 1 additional building spot. Now, do I want 250 extra armaments? Do I want to double my armament production immediately? I actually think my greater priority is upgrading the drill for even more raw materials. So I will do that next turn. I don't need the extra guns right this second. 3 turns away from trading those guns to the lovely people of Bretonnia in exchange for peasants. Ah, good guy, Chaos Dwarfs. So yeah, I think this is... it's kind of unfortunate in the sense that we've now got a whole bunch of people to fight over this way, but on the plus side, like, we have a bunch of people to fight over this way. So there'll be somewhere for Frasguz to go after all is said and done. So you can take the Gates of Zharr this turn. Not sure why that's close. Were we gonna... No, the Gates of Zharr was an outpost, that's right. That tower can go, don't need that tower. Immediately upgrade this to level 2, so I can get the mine going next turn. But we're getting close to the point where we can create a third army. And by the end of this, we'll be thinking seriously about that, because that third army could potentially go north into Norska, or we can reinforce our push against the vampires, and then eventually Grimgor Ironhide, who hates our guts. I'm not sure. I'll leave that one open as to when we open our anti-Norska push, or whether the vampires and the orcs in the south are more of a problem. As for Imrik, I'm kind of hoping that the other Chaos Dwarves deal with that, so I don't have to. But if I do, I'll try for peaceful options before I move to occupy his territory. But if I have to occupy his territory, it falls within the defensive rule. I just, if I knew he was in danger of attacking us, I would bribe him. I think I'm pretty good with the Order factions in the west.
Deliver your missive and then get from my presence.
I'm not bordering any of the Empire factions, so we should be good. My next objective really is to get Kislev into a non-aggression pact, because they're trading with the Empire. That should help. You can see I'm training up to 24. I'll save some money and drop them a big gift probably next turn. But I should keep getting points from killing Drycha. Speaking of which, I think it's Essen this turn, which is unfortunately a new province. And we've got Drycha having built up a new army over there. So that can accept new labour. That'll need 300 workload, so it's not quite there yet. The cache building is an alternative. You're not accepting new labour, that's correct. And Astragoth gets an all-important another level. So I'm leveling the Bull Centaur line just in case we get more later on. But really what I want is the gold chevron abilities for all of these archers and hobgoblins, blunderbusses. Like, they're cheap, they're 1 point each, and they give a huge boost to the relevant units. So that should put us in a good position. As for Essen, let's see how much labour we can get stocked in. Only 3 provinces are accepting labour at the moment, so we should stock them up pretty quickly. Rib Peaks does not need any more, I don't think. Again, we can't really afford those upgrades immediately, so we'll save them just a minute. So Rib Peaks is going to need 600, 700, 800 labour. It's got 1,029. Unfortunately, we do have some employee turnover, 51 per turn. But that's maintainable for a while, so I won't top off Rib Peaks for a while. I'll get the new ones online. Makes a degree of sense to me. I could build the cash building while I wait. And that's probably what I'll do, because I need cash. I need cash to pay off Katarin. I need Katarin to be happy with me. Destroying the trees is one way to do that. I'm actively doing it with good old Astragoth, but I'd also like to just, you know, give them money. And Tretch. See, I don't have to declare war on anyone. The wars are coming to me. I have no idea where Tretch is, to be honest. I have no idea. When the Skaven reveal themselves, I will send them back into the Abyss. But for the moment, I actually have no clue where Tretch's current holdings are. Which is fun. But hey, I know where the trees are. I know where my targets in the south are. Lose cargo, reduce... No, I'm going to keep moving as normal. We've researched the future of the Dawi Zharr, so I can pick up finest leaders. I figure before I get my next lord recruited and heroes recruited, getting as many initial levels as possible is a good idea. So where do I want to go to now? I can go to Mordheim. I can go to Naganov. So if I go to Naganov, I can destroy the army of Drycha, which seems like a great way to put her down, at least for a period, and give me time to take like Bischhafen, Mordheim, because this is a big province. Ostermark is a big province. It used to be an imperial province. It's now a Chaos Dwarf outpost because it was occupied by angry tree people. So, and we need some labor for this region. So,
in the names of Ursun,
I'm improving you to 20. Let's see how much that improves once I go and take on Drycha. The answer is she's improving it to 15 in exchange for me smacking Drycha in a thoroughly uninteresting smash. Just too much fire damage. Just too much fire damage on the field for that horde of Dryads. It didn't have the tree men and the really heavy units that they had last time, and my army was generally in much better shape. One more level of crushing charge, and we unlock rally, and we're really close now to having this really good stuff. Really good stuff in reach. We've got full plate armor. I really want heroic killing blow, but most of these are pretty crap. Charge bonus plus 30, maybe 15% hit points. I think we'll go with the charge bonus. Means we're more likely to hit characters when we charge them. And Gorda's, that melee defense is starting to look respectable. So Naganov, also an outpost, going to be our first mine. We're accepting labor at 172. We need more in order to bring that to full operation. But Northern Sylvania also needed a bunch of labor, which I think it now has. Southern Sylvania, Northern Sylvania. So that has 320 full labor now, so that can afford to build a mine, but we still want to accept just a little bit more. And Southern Sylvania can coast for a while. The public order, however, is a problem from all of that vampiric corruption. This will actually be a problem. We're going to need to be able to use that, and even then, we're not going to maintain control forever. So I'm going to be able to burn control for a moment. That'll hold it at -5, but we need a longer-term solution, and it might legitimately be. I know this is heresy.
I'm Vlad von Karstein. Choose thy words with care.
How much would you give me for Eschen? Now, I don't like the fact that you're at war with Stirland. You'd give me 2,000 gold and a trade agreement. I wonder. I do wonder. Now, if that was my goal, what I should have done is converted these contracts, monetized the existing labor contracts into cash directly, and then sold it. Now I can't do that because for 10 turns I've got 5 turns I've got this active. But it might be I run this for a couple of turns, and then I cancel this construction, I don't accept new labor, And then I legitimately consider selling Eschen to Vlad. I can always take it back later, but it's a province that I'm just not going to be able to consolidate and hold. Whereas Waldenhof seems manageable by comparison. And it means I can spend the money on upgrading Waldenhof instead. And how much for a nice big aid package?
You have no hope.
A generous gift is 7,300 to Katerin. I'm going to consider that, because getting the first order faction into a trade and whatever agreement, that'd be handy. Imric hasn't gone the way I wanted. I was hoping to make Imric like me by beating up the vampires. Hasn't worked out the way I intended. But this might be a way to get myself friendly with Reichland. Alright. I'm slightly annoyed for a couple of reasons. Firstly, the other Chaos Dwarfs grabbed the Demon Stump, which would have allowed me to complete the province, get my bonuses, and also access the unique building there, which they are not building because they are geniuses, so I'm going to have to wait until I confederate the idiots. The second thing is Imric has decided that he's going to ignore the allied Dark Elf Chaos Dwarf settlements that he is bordering, and is instead going to march through their land. Oh no, actually, he's not at war with them. He's just... Why would you not declare war on them, who you border, but you would declare... Okay, alright. We're just gonna accept that. That is what it is. It's gonna be Third Army time soon. Anyway, I've had to speed march back to... I've had to speed march back to Tower of Gorgoth to defend it, because I'm not going to lose the infrastructure here. But yeah, I am feeling that Gates of Zharr may be about to be smacked, which would be a really unfortunate waste of the infrastructure that's being constructed there. Frustrating if it happens. On the plus side, everything else is coming together pretty well. We've got plus 2,000 raw materials per turn, which is closer to my comfort level. We will be burning additional... a bunch of additional ones when this high-quality assembly line comes online, but the drill here, the Gromril-tipped assembly line, should partly make up for it. So we're in good shape. We've evened out our labour demands. Nowhere is negative. Blasted Waste needs more. Wolflands needs to build its mine, but Northern's... See, the attrition on our workforce and the fact that we're going to need to spend... In fact, we're going to need to spend that now. Because if you let control get too low, you end up having significant turnover in your labour workforce, like twice the turnover rate that you would elsewhere. So we need to switch these into plus control situations. So there we are. Worker morale is now improving, but as a result, the Northern World's Edge Mountains is a bit short of people. So let's hope that our battles in the near future resolve that, because we're now at plus 1900, and I don't want to spend gold necessarily to move labour when I could just recruit new workers, solve the problem that way. So Northern Sylvania, Ostermark, everywhere needs a bit of a top-up. So let's hope the next turn at Beachhafen we're able to get some results. Alright, so some annoying things did happen. We'll deal with those in a moment, but
You have been
with a little bit of a bribe, we now have Kislev in a non-aggression pact and increasing, which means we should get trade and military access pretty soon. I consider that a victory. That's our first in. Once you start being nice to some factions, you have a better chance of being nice to the others. Like, we can work with that. We also got the oh jeez, the convoy got an Arachnoid spider. We had our labour come in from our convoy, which means we're back to full productivity at 2,500 raw materials per turn. Now, Drycha did come and take back Essen. That's pretty bad. I started establishing a third army in the south, so money's going down. That's also bad. Naganoff and Waldenhof are both under threat from Drycha. That's bad. But this army under Astragoth has nothing to do now except for march south and smack Drycha, clear this all out once and for all. I sold Eschen to Vlad, because he was getting a little uppity. He's now pretty happy with me. He's at neutral and going up, so that's a decent place to be. I just don't want him to stab me in the back at the wrong time. Not that Vlad would ever do that to anyone. I'm also glad that the Dawi themselves are holding steady and not declaring war on us, because I don't want to deal with that right now. Oh, there's a bunch of Skaven near Howling Rock. Fantastic. Okay, so can I catch... Doesn't look like I can catch this Imric army this turn. So I can either move my way into the Gates of Zharr and then they'll inevitably march away. Maybe I can try and get myself in reinforce range, but somewhere I can still attack them next turn. I don't know. And this army over here at Howling Rock, I've started recruiting, basically just using Regiments of Renown to throw it together quickly. Because here are the Skaven. Here's the Skaven, the Rat Tide, that we're going to have to deal with. So at the moment this is some hero units, some goblins, and a Hell Cannon that I'm recruiting from Allied recruitment. Probably not enough, but I don't really have what I need to do more than that. What I can do is get a convoy rolling. And what I probably want to do is, again, sell guns for labor. Guns for... See, guns for 5,000. This labor here is probably the best exchange rate. Oh, wait, no. If I go at... Oh, but that's a 5-turn, and that's a 13-turner. Can I wait 13 turns? I mean, I guess I'll get another one going. Because that's 2,000 labor. Let's think about this. This is a good trade. This is a much better trade. I can repeat this more often. Also, these short trades for money for things like this, money for labor. That's just like huge straight profit, right? Because I take 1,200 gold, I get 700 labor. That's 4,500 and change worth of labor. So that's a really good deal. But going all the way to Karen Carr for 2,000 labor, 480 guns, think that's a go. And we're going to aim pretty soon to get another convoy going. I could have gotten max convoy capacity plus 10% before I did that. That's okay. Let's grab the construction time reduction. And then we're very close to getting that done. Alright, looking good. And then up, so that'll give us +1 max convoys. And then we probably want... I'll toss up between military and... This is what? Unit capacity and a bunch of bombardment abilities. This could make winning battles just more efficient and easier. So I'm not against bound spells. They have an economic benefit because you can do more with less army. This is also a summon, unit capacity, and a spell. Okay, so between these two I don't really care. Global recruitment I don't use very often, but it is good when you use it because you want to do it quickly. And Chaos Undivided Corruption, good for fighting Vlad, primarily in our current setup, so there we are. Alright, so I'm going to Shadow Imric, I'm going to deal with Drycha where I can. Unfortunately that means that the turn needs to cycle first. But hey, we got our first ordery friend. Kislev, welcome to the Industrial Revolution. Alright, I've pulled together the best that I can manage under the circumstances. A wizard, a captain, a bunch of regiments of renown, and some crappy garrison troops up against a tide of Skaven, including some good units, some chieftains, some warfire throwers, but also a whole bunch of chaff. What I'm hoping is that I can use the, with some good magic casts from Mr. Vargash here, to clear some of the waves, and then some very heavy reliance on things like Hashud Stark Ravagers here, the Immortals, the Blazing Beards of Bergerac. Maybe I can pull something off here. If I can, this is 2 Skaven armies that I can throw off. I can then recruit new units and go from there. Alright, so fair warning, this is about to get scrappy. There's a lot of rats on the field at the moment. And of course, they've got reinforcements coming in. They have a whole bunch of single entities. They've got some Doomflayers. They've got warlords on mounts, chieftains on mounts. Like, it's just a bit of a chunky force. And they've got some dangerous artillery and warp fire throwers. So units that are not particularly tough themselves, but if they're allowed to engage, they can put out a lot of damage. Meanwhile, our army comes in slowly. What I do is bait both of their unit summons, where they can summon temporary clan rats. Both of those get baited early on in the battle before the army arrives, so I just sort of kite that as best as I can, which is good because it means those units aren't around to screw up my other units later on. Now, in terms of what I'm relying on, there's a couple of crutch units. Obviously the leader and the magic. I've got the elite regiment of renown, bull centaurs with dual weapons, that's Hashuts and dark ravagers. They just do so much damage. I'm going to rely on them very heavily. And then I've got the blazing beards of the Drycha, another regiment of renown, and I have, I think, the immortals coming in as well, another group of units that I'll really lean on. But we are massively outnumbered. The balance bar says I am stuffed, especially now that this horde of rats is coming in, but let's see how we do it. I move forward to begin with to set myself up on a little bit of a rise so they don't have the ability to fight me coming downhill. At the same time, I send my mobile units, the Wolf Riders, out really wide, both to draw some attention and also because what I really want to do is take out the Plague Claw catapults. I really don't want them to have artillery, because that can be really devastating, especially to my 2 units of elite infantry, the Blazing Beards and the Immortals, the Infernal Iron Sworn Regiment of Renown. These things are dangerous and they don't deserve to be killed by enemy artillery. All Chaos Dwarf lives are valuable to us. So the main engagement will start in this sort of format here. What we're relying on is magic for chaff clearing, the wolves to take out the artillery, but they have been diverted by some of their heroes at this point, but that's okay. We will get to the artillery. The other thing we really need to take out are the horrifying throwers. You can see the magic goes down, sweeping through there. So that's a pretty strong opening, but that's now on recharge, even though I really want to throw another one through. What I decide to do is send the Immortals directly in against the Storm Vermin and back them up with the Blazing Beards, who will just nuke this unit using their grenades. Storm Vermin, they're not the best elite infantry in a game, but they are elite infantry, so we'll take them off the board pretty quickly. Meanwhile, on this side, we've got the Dark Ravagers working the angles, basically. Started by taking out half a unit of Doom Flayers, but we're also not above sweeping through Gutter Runners, ranged units, just keeping as much damage unengaged as possible. Here we are, that's where that's the point. So that Wolf Rider is going to go off and destroy that unit. But at this point I start getting really worried. I see Warp Fire Throwers firing, and even though the Immortals aren't losing units straight away, that's because they don't lose any troops until they're below 75% health. So it's a bit illusory, really. Also, I'm pretty sure they nuked themselves pretty badly with their magic there. But I really worry about these Warp Fire Throwers, so I'm like, okay, it's time to send in the big boys. We should start Ravagers to go in. They are surrounded. It's not the best engagement for them, but they do a lot of damage, so as you can see, they can at least butcher the things that they're there to get pretty quickly. At the same time, I've got heroes in here doing as much, and warriors doing as much disruption to the range as possible. And at this point, you'll start to see the battle start to get a bit fragmented. But magic keeps coming through, doing as much damage as possible, taking out Skaven Slaves, Slingers, Storm Vermin, you name it. And whenever I've got Cutthroats or Labourers coming back from routing, I do bring them back. I try and chase things off the field. But I'm definitely still pretty pressured at this point. The artillery is gone. Some of the Warp Fire Throwers are gone. But I've lost about half of the HP of the Dark Ravagers at this point to some bad engagements. Now, I should probably have pulled these guys out long ago. They fight best supported, they fight best against different target types, and I'm going to need their damage later on. So it's really a closer run thing than it needs to be because I leave them in this engagement. But it is good seeing entire units of Storm Vermin being deleted, and then the Labourers can come in to chase them off. So there we are, that's all my grenades spent now, but a lot of Storm Vermin have met their end in that way. My Sorcerer Prophet is still available to be casting magic. What he's doing at this point is putting Cascading Fire Cloak to boost the melee defense of the Dark Ravagers to keep them in the fight. But what we've got is a massive thinning out of the Skaven ranks. At this point, there are almost as many of my units on the field as there are of theirs. Some of mine are shit, but a lot of theirs are shit too. The problem is they still have an awful lot of things like warlords, grey seers, single entities, these chieftains riding around rat ogres. It's still a bit worrying for me at this point. So shortly what I'm going to do is pull Stark Ravagers out of this engagement and bring more of my infantry over, but they're sort of being gummed up on these Skaven slaves, so the Immortals do have to take a brief break to scythe and axe apart all of these slaves. This is not an even fight. It does not take the Immortals very long, but it takes them a non-zero amount of time. Now this is a worrying moment when my Prophet starts to get really beat up by this unit, this chieftain on the rat ogre. So I bring Stark Ravagers in, I give them a buff, and what I find is they are one of the few units I have, along with the Immortals, that can consistently hit and do damage to enemy characters. They hit hard enough that the armor doesn't matter as much, they have the bonuses, they've got reasonably good melee attack, so they come in and basically they save at the last minute, they tag in and they save my Sorcerer Prophet, which is important because he's not out of Winds of Magic yet. They do bring out Skaven Slave Slingers, but yeah. Oh, that's right. So the Dark Ravagers rout off, their Warpfire Throwers nuke a whole bunch of the slaves, and you can see my guy even runs, but luckily the Ravagers are going to come back and score a win before this guy can turn around and beat me up. Once again, we have some remaining Warpfire Throwers engaging the Blazing Beards, again in this long-running infantry battle over the forest. They're still throwing Storm Vermin in to throw us out, but I throw my last couple of grenades. Most of them unfortunately hit the slingers, and then I just charge out. The slaves, the Storm Vermin rather break. And I think it's the Immortals that actually come out and make contact with the Warpfire Throwers. And as you might imagine, Immortals versus Warpfire Throwers is not a fair contest. There's a lot of micromanagement elsewhere going on, as you can imagine. My Sorcerer is still running, I think, at this point, but I bring Stark Ravagers in, and they beat down this Warlock Engineer. So another character taken off the field. Skaven brought a lot of characters. Everyone I can kill is an advantage. And here are the Immortals with their dual axes chasing after those Skaven weapon teams as they scurry away. Now at this stage, the balance of power bar is basically saying I've lost. The Dark Ravagers are at the point where even Skaven Slave Slingstones are incredibly dangerous as a threat, because I still need these 4 models that I have left. I desperately need them. But we're about to kill another hero in the forest. I think we're about to kill another 2 heroes in the forest. We have somehow managed on 200 HP to keep our Sorcerer Prophet alive, and he is chasing down this Warlock Engineer, because we have much better close combat stats than he does. So our guy should be able to beat him down, take another character off the field. And we're also using this Overseer coupled with these Goblin Labourers just as in the centre, just continually attacking Slingers so they're not always shooting Slingstones. But it is very, very much at this stage a close run thing. They have a lot of units on low HP, I have a lot of units on low HP, so I need to do things like this, where the archers soak up the attention, and the Ravagers come in really quickly with the benefit of surprise and a charge bonus, and chop down this Warlord. And this here is a win, the enemy Lord is dead, and as you know, Skaven are not famed for their morale. And when you're not known for your morale, having Bull Centaurs chase you and chop you down can be a pretty demoralizing experience. So, the Skaven Slave units are thinning in numbers, the Overseer being an absolute raid boss, knocked over repeatedly as he does his dwarf, he gets punched around. But that doesn't mean he can't hit back, so he goes toe-to-toe with this bloke on the Rat Ogre and sends him running. Now at this stage, both armies are completely ragged. We're chasing a few things off the map there, but really what I'm fighting with is like 4 Bull Centaur models, my Overseer, my Sorcerer, against a Plague Priest and a whole bunch of Skaven Slave Slingers. I'm not sure I have any infantry left at this point. Oh, and I forgot, there is a Chieftain left too. So, at this stage, it's not great, but it's not terrible either. The trick is to make sure the Bull Centaurs never take a full face of Slingstones, otherwise they might just all die. At the moment, they're accounting for an awful lot of my damage. They account for 3,000 value. And the Overseer, by contrast with the Silver Shield and 120 armor, doesn't give 2 shits about Slingstones. The trick is going to be to rout off the Skaven Slaves, as we do. And then, operating as a duo, beat down on the Grey Seer. I try and do it with just my Overseer, and then I realise he probably needs a little bit of help, but he does have the right stats, so the duel goes broadly okay. I lose more HP than I was expecting, but we do take down another enemy character, and at that point, army losses and shattered. Alright, so you are definitely coming from the replay after that. Talk about going down to the bloody wire. But a lot of the Skaven heroes are dead, their units are voided. We are getting reinforcements next turn because we've won the defensive battle, I presume. So we should get replenishment, they shouldn't. And that should, in a moment, I hope, put us in a very good position. 1,100 gold, 149 labour. We'll take 416 more. Major. Oh well, we lost the units there. Some Chaos Dwarf garrisons. That's fine. Hobgoblin Wolf Riders, 1,200 value, 3,000 value from those guys. 2,000, 1,600, 939, 2,000 value. And even, you know, look, even some decent value from the Hobgobbos. So there we are. We've taken out, just in case they come back, the Warp Fire Throws, which I was worried about, are gone. Most of the Storm Vermin, the Catapults are gone. They've lost a leader who they'll replace, Plague Monk. These are all really, really wounded characters, so they won't be coming back in a hurry. That should mean we can counterattack next turn. I'm hoping. Because we should have our Hell Cannon online from recruitment there. And we're going to lose this one. That's okay. We knew that was going to happen. So Valdenhof gets sacked. But we can bring Astragoth and, back and put Drycha in her place. So I'm going to save there. Because there is every chance that that's the end of this turn. Because look, we can now clean this up. I am certain. What we'll want to do is attack with both armies at once. Let's make sure we've got Cascading Fire there. What do we want to do here? What's he mostly leading? Do I want... I think I want Hellforged Ordnance, because I'm going to be getting artillery coming out of this guy. So we'll be able to attack, clean this up. Let's have a go at that. Yeah, that's decisive victory. Leave the Skaven in the dust. Another 132 labour. So we've lost the Border Princes, but what we haven't lost is this army here. Now, the mage to be working with this army is coming down south. So we can probably... Oh, and Imric's coming. Okay. Alright, well... Imric himself is rolling up. That's a thing. I'm not sure we'll be able to catch them there. So let me do some housekeeping, then we'll continue. Oh, and the answer to that question, in case you were wondering, is yes, absolutely we can catch these people. So I'm going to do this manually, because this is an opportunity to get a whole bunch of labour from running down the enemy. And then we'll be back. Alright, we did it once, now it's time to see if we can do it again. Once again, it looks... I think magic is going to have to be used to wipe out most of this chaff. Most of these archers and things are going to have to be taken out with Burning Skull. The dragon is a serious problem, as are the dragon princes. The dragon princes we can try and deal with the hand grenades from the blazing beards. Imric and the dragon are a problem. But we have a hell cannon this time. So, you know what? This would be a heck of a way to go. Now, being outnumbered by elves is usually a really bad sign, but that is the situation we find ourselves in. Legions of archers and spearmen that have somehow decided they want nothing more than to fight over the bloody wastelands with us. But you know what? Okay. The real dangerous threats, as I said, are these amazing Dragon Prince units over here. 110 armor, bronze shields, 46-49, huge charge bonus, 20% physical resistance, 25% fire. They're just really good. And then there's the Sun Dragon and Imrik himself. Now, the only unit we start with on the field hiding in these forests, bravely hiding in these forests, is our Overseer. I've given him a little bit of equipment, so he's got some decent melee attack, melee defense. He's ready to fight, but he is just one dwarf at the moment. All we're hoping is they don't discover us too early, and we're able to bring our reinforcements in. One is our, I believe, our sorcerer, and the other is our main, another overseer, and the other is our main force, ragged and tiny as it is. Now the AI doesn't know where we are, so it does send a mage on a fire on a horse. That mage finds us, and then I think I'm able to make contact and get a couple of hits in before it runs away. There we are, nice big jumping spin kick. Come on, make another hit. What am I talking about? The battle's already over, but it's still exciting to watch because you don't get to pay attention to this stuff when you're managing the battle frantically. So he engages, basically, at this point. Our Overseer, he's really tanky. He's a really tanky boy, but he is limited. We're going in with a bit of a ragged force, so Stark Ravagers are at about 50% HP. The one thing we do have that we didn't have last time that we engage with now is this Hell Cannon. And the Hell Cannon's job is going to be to take, combined with magic, to take as many archers off the field as possible. We're greeted by a really, and that was, I'm not sure what I could have done about that, I probably could have microed it better, but just a really good breath attack from the Sun Dragon. It gets like 60-something kills right off the bat and jumps straight onto our sorcerer. So, already a bad place to be. I commit the Blazing Beards, Bergeric, immediately. I put the vulnerability to fire on the dragon, because why not? And then I put as many fire arrows into it as possible, and then miss with the clutch fireball. I thought I was being really smart, but apparently not. So yeah, once again, things not looking great at the outset. Our Lord is sucking up a whole bunch of attention. The Hell Cannon is doing damage. More reinforcements are coming in, but we are still very much outnumbered at this stage. So, what do I do when times are tough? The same thing you do every time, Pinky. You call in Stark Ravagers, the Bull Centaurs. We have surrounded the dragon, but we're also getting our face kicked in by Dragon Princes. But Dragon Princes that are distracted by chaff, so I've got the Labourers, we can hit them with the Dark Ravagers and try and pinch off a couple of units, which we do. Also bring in the Blazing Beards. They do okay against the dragon, but they're going to get beat up themselves, which they do. But the critical pick is that on the retreat, trying to get away, not able to get a charge in, we do get some serious damage put in on these Dragon Princes, and fell a considerable number of models, all while most of this is still distracted with our Overseer. Unfortunately, Imrik is just really badass. He comes in, and the damage starts to rack up. But I've got a good old Firestorm in there that did some clearing. They're casting their fire magic. That might have been their Firestorm, actually. And critically, the Hell Cannon, despite the Dragon Princes thinking about it, is still very much in operation. At this point, it only has 74 kills. It'll end the game on considerably more. The Dragon Prince is now down to 2,400. The Sun Dragon chasing my sorcerer around, trying to kill it. As I desperately try and kill it with fire arrows from Ogwood Calm, that's not going to work. But I decide to prioritize the Dragon Princes. And in the battle between Angry Monster and well-motivated entry-level employees, well, you know, the entry-level employees serve an important purpose of drawing the opponent's eye, shall we say. Leaving room for the very impressive Centaurs to do what they do best. And at this point, the Dragon Princes are basically done for. And the HP on the Dragon isn't great either. It comes in here, it tries to take on the Overseer. Now the Overseer is going to have the melee attack and the damage to hit it. While it's all clumped up in the Immortals who also hit with trucks. So as you can imagine, the Sun Dragon is also at this point on its way out. And only at this point, only now, after I've dealt with the Dragon Princes and whatnot, does our Overseer, who's been holding up the whole of Imrik's army, finally lift off. So, we bought our time, we've taken out some priority targets, but we've still got this giant blob of archers and spearmen. Whatever will we do? One solution, of course, is the Hell Cannon. which whiffs just as I watch it where we are, but we're also doing things like that burning head, so the fact that we kept our sorcerer alive means that we can keep doing clear spells like that, doing the damage. He's up to 86 and 1,300 value, but again, we'll finish with beautiful Hell Cannon shot, made up for the last one. The Hell Cannon is not the best of the artillery pieces for the Chaos Dwarfs by reputation. It's also the one people are most familiar with, and I wonder if they find the new systems inherently, I don't know, cooler. But Hell Cannons do good work, especially against really densely packed disciplined formations like the High Elves. And so at this point you can see the balance bar starts to swing in their favour. Imric, of course, is a problem. We just can't hit the guy. We can't bring him down. He's like a mini version of Tyrion. He's really hard to deal with, and he's got heals. But I can army losses him. And at this point the High Elf army is taking those Hell Cannon shots. It's being stabbed in the back by Labourers. Archers fighting Labourers. Archers are going to do decently well. They're going to actually beat the Labourers, but they're not shooting while they're fighting the Goblins. And if they're not shooting, they're not achieving anything. And they're just waiting their turn for the Dark Ravagers, for the Burning Heads, which has just done another beautiful run through there, or the Hell Cannon with a beautiful danger cloak. See, I knew that wasn't going to hit the Goblins, I promise. I knew that would not hit any Goblins. I knew they were 100% safe. Goblins can beat Spearmen if the Spearmen are being shelled by Hell Cannons. So anyway, this battle is clearly over. More seriously, at this point, it kind of was, with the exception of the fact that Imric was going to be impossible to kill. And so it was a matter of army losses, doing army losses and making sure that none of the routing units came back. So this is where things like Labourers and Wolf Boys came very much in handy, just making sure that routing units didn't come back. And then I basically didn't try and attack Imric until he was army lossing, and at that point the Dark Ravagers put some serious hurt on him and put him in the dirt.